Good afternoon. My name is Del Rodriguez, and this is a Flabonga Month of the Cube. Yes, nailed the name of the show. And with me today, I've got Stu McEwan. McEwan? Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did indeed.
Not McEwan.
Not McEwan. Going around the world, it definitely gets different interpretations of it. And then you throw a capital in after a lowercase letter, and it just throws everybody out. But yeah, you nailed it.
Cool. Thank you. It's the least I can do is get your name right. And I won't purposely get it wrong. I might do it to annoy you, but we'll see. First and foremost, I always forget to do this because, we've talked. Can you explain to people watching this who may not be in our field or arena, who are you, what do you do, and who do you work for?
Great, thanks, Dale. So my name's Stu. I've actually only been a Stu relatively later in life, but I'll go with that for now. I'm Stu. I'm a staff product manager at FreeAgent. So FreeAgent is an accountancy software solution based at the UK market. And my role as a product manager is essentially to build the right things to make customers happy. I will always confess or caveat that with, I am not one of the super smart people who can put fingers on keyboards and code everything in the back end and do all the magic that makes this happen. But I still have the responsibility of, if it goes wrong, it's kind of on me.
Get out of my brain. That's going to be my next question. How are your programming and developing skills? That's my next question, but...
Really poor, Dale. I've dabbled in some CSS, which is awkward to say the least, and quickly backed out of that journey and leave it to people that are far smarter than I in that sort of world.
Well, the problem with CSS by its nature is cascading. So you make one change here and it moves everything down. That's the nature of CSS. So I can get that. I get you with that one. Okay, so you're not a techie guy. Question for you. On your profile on LinkedIn, it shows that you've worked at FreeAgent for a very, very long time. Your previous role was senior project manager. What's the difference between a senior project manager and a staff project?
Great question. So this was the biggest shift in my role in product, actually. That for kind of junior, mid, senior product manager, all the role expectations were kind of like what you're doing. Like, how are you showing this? How are you hitting your KPIs? How are you doing your kind of OKRs and all this sort of stuff? And then as you move into staff, the role is now like, well, how are you helping others to do those things? And that for me was like a completely different shift to what I'm used to. And in FreeAgent, you've got two kind of paths you can go down when you get to a certain level of seniority. One is like the management path, and you stop being an independent contributor and you sort of manage people. And the other is staying on that independent track. And I'm very much on that independent track. That's what gives me energy every day. But I've still got this element now of like leadership, I guess, or getting judged on helping other people. So that's the main difference, that I now work with other PMs, and it's like, well, if they're doing the right stuff in the right sort of area for our practices, then it helps me.
Okay, cool. Thank you for explaining. John Toons jumped into the comments, by the way. He says, everyone knows that senior means older than the other people with the previous role. Winky face.
There's probably an element of truth. I will always, if John Toon has an opinion, I will say it's probably a good opinion.
Well, I've heard some of his opinions. Not all of them are correct. Let's be abundantly clear. Like,
there is definitely an element of that. And I was talking to a few colleagues last night, and on the topic of getting old, I am definitely getting old, Dale. There's some things that we're mentioning to colleagues about cultural references, and they're like, what's Friends? And I'm like, what? Like, how is this a thing?
I have a similar example, right? So I ask, as you may know, some daft icebreakers and silly questions. And in fact, I'll ask you this one and explain how this relates to being old, right?
Yeah.
Kiss, marry, kill, Popeye, Bugs Bunny, or SpongeBob?
Wow. Okay. So,
and obviously there's a ruder version of that question, but because it's LinkedIn, I can't ask the full rude version. You can extrapolate how you like.
Bugs Bunny. So I think you'd kill Bugs Bunny, because then you could have a rabbit to eat. It's probably a nice like you've got a meal. So then you've got to kiss or marry Popeye or SpongeBob. I reckon if you marry Popeye, you're probably never going to walk around anywhere in your life and be worried that you're going to get into some trouble because of the strength and size of the chap. I'm not sure if he's a great person outside of that. I can't really remember Popeye, but I definitely watched it, so I'll go with that. And then I guess I'd have to kiss SpongeBob.
All right. Cool. The reason why, referencing about being older in the office, I asked that question to a colleague, and she was like, "Who's Bugs Bunny?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, this person's like 20 years old, and the first cartoon they watched was Ben 10. It's not the same caliber of cartoon."
Talking of calibers of cartoons, I've got a 3.5-year-old, and she's starting to get a little bit of cultural references. She came back from nursery the other day and wanted to watch Spider-Man. I'm like, how have you heard this? But I'm quite glad that it's like references that I almost like watch. There's a little part of me that's glad it's not. I've never seen Ben 10, but I'm glad it's Spider-Man and not a Ben 10, because I'm like, I kind of get it, and I was that kid as well, so that definitely resonates well.
Cheeky question: how old are you?
I always need to remember, because when you get over 30, I found that I lose track of the years. I am.
I can guess based on your profile, like when you graduated uni and stuff like that in college, but
I'm 37.
Okay, yeah. We're similar age. That leads to my next question. So you have worked for FreeAgent for 8 years. I'm not going to ask you about your career development. I would like to know how that has looked in your personal life. So presumably when you started FreeAgent, no kids. Now you got kids. How's that like journey? How's your career journey supported your personal life and vice versa? How's that reflected each other?
It's a great question. Really, really good question. And not one I think about a lot. I might take it back a little bit further. My career has been very odd.
And you used to be a PT. Yeah.
So way back when I left uni doing psychology and business and going, no idea what I want to do in life. These are the two most broad things you can possibly do, and no idea what I wanted to do. And my parents were childminders, so I was like, the one thing I know how to do properly is look after kids, because I grew up kind of around kids and looking after kids. So I went and became a preschool teacher, and I absolutely loved it. It was the best job, I still think. I maybe shouldn't say that every day, but it was so fantastic going into work and all these kids smiling and absolutely loving the fact that, especially there's a guy there and there's a kind of different dynamic and things like that. And
when you say preschool, do you mean like nursery, or do you mean actually like year R reception?
Like nursery, like the final year of nursery before they join kind of proper school.
Okay,
and I absolutely loved it. And the kids were like always like so keen to get involved. And it's a good age. And I didn't have to deal with the overnights when I was like late teens or whatever. And you kind of get the good parts of the kids. And then my friends, I had a few friends that wanted to go traveling, and I couldn't really say no. You know, I'm not sure about your traveling experience, Dale, but when you kind of got a few friends at that age of late teens, early 20s, and like, should we go to Asia for like 6 months? And I'm like, yes, that I can't really say no.
Yeah.
So I went and did that. And then when during my travels, I fell in love with running. I still can't remember how it happened, but I started running one day and was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then started to pick up and would run quite a lot while we were away. Got like a cheap pair of trainers out in whatever, Cambodia, Laos or something along those lines. And then came back and after kind of traveling for the best part of a year, I was like, this is going to be my life. I want to be in the fitness industry. I've fallen in love with running, and I was always quite a heavy kid. So when you kind of look better, feel better, I was like, this is my world.
Yep.
And then became a PT, and that's when I kind of started with FreeAgent, or with accounting software. Actually, I used a couple of solutions because I was a business owner, and I did that for a few years. And the honest answer is, I still believe that some people are fantastic about being self-employed, and some people aren't, and I'm not.
Okay.
And I definitely.
What makes you not so good at being self-employed? Like structure, organization, finances. What was it?
It was kind of back to your original question of like family life and social life. And I found that I was always on my phone, always thinking about the next client, always thinking about marketing. And I'd sit there at nights with my girlfriend, now my wife, and be like, I'm on my phone all the time, like when we're watching movies or we're doing everything, because there's always like the next client. There's always a plan you've got to create. There's always like, how do I market myself? And after 2 to 3 years, I just thought, this isn't me. This is me trying to fit into something that isn't true to who I am, and left, like completely just thought, this is it. I don't know what I want to do, but this isn't it. And I was making decent money. I was pretty good at it and really enjoyed it. And then there was a kind of perfect sliding doors moment where my wife was like, we had that conversation of like, where are we going? You know, that kind of like the conversation, like
The
kids.
conversation, yeah. The one that most men don't bring up, the ladies bring up, generally speaking. I'm talking about stereotypical hetero relationships. It's usually the woman that goes, "What the hell are we doing right now? What's happening?"
Absolutely, Dale.
Yeah,
And we had that moment, and she was like,
"Give me that ring."
Well, it was more of it was kind of like that, but it was also like, before we buy a house, before we have a kid, before we do anything like that, I want to travel. And I was kind of like, man, I've been away for a year. It was great. And then she was like, but I want to do it. And I was kind of then the second time in my life in that position, like, I don't really want you to go away by yourself and not see you for a year. I want to leave this industry. Let's do it. And so that element of work completely influenced social.
You made the right choice, by the way.
Yeah.
Long distance may not have worked. It might have backfired horribly.
Yeah. And then we spent a long time in Japan, a long time in the Philippines, and both fantastic countries. And then came back, and I was like, I do not know what I want to do, but I've got a degree in business and I want to try working in an office. It might not be me, but let's see how it goes. And I bounced around a couple of things, and then I joined FreeAgent, and I was the FreeAgent let me join them. I'm going to say it that way, because I had small business experience, and there was a kind of gap in their support team for. We want somebody who's not necessarily AAT qualified or CIMA or any of those things that we now kind of demand from our support team, because we've got like real support people.
Yep. Real support people.
Real support. We still, I say, kind of still a USP, I think, to have real people answering the phones to kind of accountants and things.
Yep.
But because I had small business experience, I'm the last person to ever join FreeAgent without accounting qualifications pre that. So I'm not sure if it was still the right decision. But
I mean, you've been there 8 years, and FreeAgent's growing, so like they must have done something right.
Yeah, and then so kind of coming into FreeAgent from there, I remember from day one, Dale, that we had the product managers come downstairs, and here's me answering questions from accountants about X, Y, and Z on software. And these product managers would come down to the support team and be like, hey, we're going to build this new thing, right? We're going to build a cash flow. We're going to build stuff. And I remember from like week 1 or 2 being like, that's the rock star role. That's what I want to do. I want to influence all these people that were like me, as like a small business owner, doesn't really know what they're doing, but can help them. And then my career has progressed from eight years into the person that then makes those decisions, which I'm delighted to hear. I'm delighted about. But specifically about kids, we had that we moved house and had a kid in that lockdown period, and changed everything, I think.
Yeah,
and it's really, I don't know about your lockdown experience, Dale, but that having a child on lockdown at roughly the same time makes it really difficult to separate those two elements of my life. I kind of associate them at the same time. You've got a 5-year-old, is that right, Dale?
Similar situation, yeah, 5-year-old. So she was born in January 2020. So born, yeah, like a similar thing. It was like, well, this is not how we expected this to be. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think ever since then it's been great. And I'm not sure I would ever say I was meant to be a dad. Like I don't think I'm ever on a specific course, because my career's been like here and here, and the social life's been all over the place. I'm kind of just like, I like to go with the flow, but I absolutely adore being a dad. It's definitely made me a much better person, for sure.
Cool. I need to go into the chat real quick. Big up Mark Cowison, fellow Scotsman. If you could read this, by the way, because you got the accent for it. I can't make it rhyme properly. Like,
Stu McEwan, Barney McGrew, Cuthbert Dibble Grubb.
Fantastic. Is that some kind of slang that I am unaware of? Because Mark has educated me that in Scotland, obviously, there's like 10, 12 different dialects. And like one time he told me about like the moonlight shining brightly. But the way he said it, I was like, that's not regular English. I can't understand that.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm wondering am I letting a code go? Like, should I know as a Scotsman what this is meant to mean? I don't know.
Maybe you've got to have your Scottish card revoked because you don't understand what he's saying. Like he's more Scottish than you.
As accents go, I think it'd be interesting to get your opinion, actually. So I'm from Edinburgh, and Edinburgh definitely has more of the, I think it's classed as like the English Scots accent. Like it's much more easier to understand than maybe a Glasgow or that. How do I sound to you?
So there's only 3 Scots accents I know: Aberdeen, Glasgow, Edinburgh. Sorry, everyone else who's probably got different accents. They're the ones I know. And you're right in terms of understanding for native English speakers or English, if that makes sense, south of the border. Yeah, Edinburgh easiest, then Glasgow, then Aberdeen. But I often find when I speak to Scottish people, obviously they do what most people with a different accent do. They speak differently to someone who doesn't come from where they're from.
Yeah.
So like I've got friends from Newcastle, right, and one's from Biker, right, and when he speaks with his Biker slang, I'm like, no idea what you said, dude, but he's always dumbing it down for me. So yeah, that's my opinion.
Absolutely. My wife's the same. She's from Oban, which is like the west coast. Lovely, lovely place. Best sunsets I've actually ever seen in the world are the west coast of Scotland. But when she speaks to friends from there, I am struggling. I'm like, you're a different person. Like, where's this accent come from?
But you see a lot in like other languages. Like, before we went live, we were talking about Germany. Like, there are Germans in the northern part of Germany who can't understand because they speak Hochdeutsch in North Germany, and they speak what's it called, Bavarian in South Germany or Bavaria. There are northern Germans who can't understand southern Germans, or they have to really concentrate, and they speak the same language. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so as I was saying, my brother lives there, and he's now fluent, but he's not fluent in all of Germany because of that reason. Like, you go to Leipzig or you go to Munich, and they're like, "What are you saying?"
Can you help me out with Mark's other comment? This is the one, the moonlight.
It's a Brabrecht Moonlicht lit the Nicht. So I've heard this, but I think it's like a classic tongue twister, I guess, in Scotland, and it basically, I mean,
you know, I'm gonna try and read it without a Scottish accent to see how horribly I butcher this. It's a Brabrecht Moonlicht lit the Nicht.
Yeah, nice. It's easy when you say it slow. I'm not sure I'm gonna have a go at saying it really fast, but
okay. Tangent question, right? Going back to your PT and training days, why is everyone at FreeAgent so freaking hench? Like, everyone works out. Everyone's like a former rugby player. You got Dave, who's like in impeccable shape for an old man. You like everyone trains. Everyone's kind of big, broad, and in pretty decent shape. What's that about?
It's a great question. I've never thought it about that way. If you haven't Googled Dave Norwell before, Google Dave Norwell.
He's model handsome. Like, he's a good looking. And then you got Tony as well. Tony's like fucking just huge.
Yeah, it's quite a good looking bunch actually. Now that I think about it, I've never tried to think about it like that. But yeah, you're pretty right. There is no gym in the office. There's no. I don't think. I mean, I'm not against the idea. But we don't have our own weight studio in the office. If that's
I thought you guys did, because everyone's just swole and strong. And okay, another one. Who do you think the strongest is in the FreeAgent team? I know it's a very big team, but let's go for senior management. Or
so if I want to keep my job, I'll say Rowan, who's the CEO. So I think Rowan's got a background in boxing or kickboxing or some kind of
actual. I'm talking about actual raw strength. Not toughness, because who you could take in a fight. I just mean raw strength.
Do you know what? If I don't say him, he'll probably get upset. I'm going to say Tony Stevenson. He's a strong guy, and I think he's still dabbling in the rugby sphere that he has done for his whole life. And he might be up there.
But Rowan is the toughest. You say CEO Rowan?
I think so. I think he might be. There's probably people that I don't know have these hidden talents. It's maybe not the icebreaker that's like, hey, I'm Stu, I do martial arts. But so there's probably a few dotted around the business. But yeah, Rowan's definitely someone that you wouldn't want to cross. I think in a dark alley if he was. Do
you know? I think one of the toughest people is Kirsty Mitchell. I think she's secretly badass.
So yeah, I'm a huge Kirsty fan, and I've never seen her dark side if she has one, but if she has one, I think it would be tough.
Yeah, someone that nice, if they go dark, it's going to be full on.
Yeah, it's always the quiet ones, Dale, I think.
Speaking of Kirsty, I'm going to ask you a super duper loaded question. What can we discuss that will make Kirsty happy so she can segment this in marketing? What can we talk about?
What can we discuss that will make Kirsty happy? So I think it's a great question. Kirsty's role is so diverse across all of practice marketing. I'm not sure what would be the number one thing. I think it would just be the content that FreeAgent puts out for our practices is so specialized for our individual partner needs, rather than being general to the market, just being, if you're accounting X, Y, or Z, here's some things to know. That we really take the personalities of FreeAgent style practices and tailor our help and support to meet them. And Kirsty's a huge part of that I think is a really nice thing that we continue to do for our partners.
Cool. Hopefully we can clip that and we can post that. That's cool. Gonna go back another step based on your life experiences. So you traveled around Asia. So I assume you went to several different countries. Which one had the best food and why?
Yeah, lovely question. It's a really hard way of dividing up countries, but a really natural way. And I do think about the strongest memories of spending a couple of years abroad are the food. Like, I don't know why it wasn't what I imagined it would be. I think Japan is really difficult to beat in terms of food. And one thing that Japan...
Why is that?
Because one thing that Japan does is it has really good restaurants that aren't Japanese in Japan. And I found this to be a really unusual thing. Maybe it's not that unusual these days, but Japan has like Michelin star Italian restaurants and French restaurants and has like unbelievable diversity of cuisine, especially in the major cities, Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo. But it also has amazing Japanese food. I think I just quite like sushi and Japanese food, and it's kind of my go-to whenever I want to eat that. So it's a nice blend between actual Japanese food and really good other food if you want something else. I'm not sure the UK has like amazing food in all these different cultures. Well, Edinburgh I'm going to go with, or Scotland, but Japan does that quite well.
Okay, no, good to know. I'm going to have to jump in the comments again because John's commented about Kirsty. John Toon, you could do a GIF of Kirsty going full Hulk and taking down the competition. I feel like this should happen. Like this should happen somehow. I don't know who's going to make this or do it, but it should happen. I think it could happen. Although I don't think anyone could make Kirsty make it happen. I think if she's a no, it's a no. No, I get that. But I feel like with AI powers and stuff, like the pizza socks happened. You're familiar with the pizza socks, right?
I am familiar with the pizza socks. Yeah.
The funniest thing about that is I don't eat that much pizza. I like it. Just I don't really eat carbohydrates that much. So they were cool socks.
Yeah. I think socks seem to be, we were talking about this yesterday with some practices as well. Socks seem to be such a popular thing in the industry, especially for accountants. Now, I don't know if it's like this myth that's created itself, and it's like, which came first? Is it because accountants love socks, so vendors started to create socks, so then accountants love, or is it just that vendors created socks so that accountants wear socks? Like, where do you think this kind of started?
I think it was vendors pushing the socks. Okay. Because here's my opinion. Like doing trade shows and going to trade shows as a delegate and as like someone on a trade stand, giving away merch and swag is great, but often it's tat. So people often lean towards things they can use. So some of the best merch I got, for example, was some Starling back. They gave me some metal straws. I still use those. Great, reusable, sustainable, blah, blah, blah. Socks are practical things that you can use. They save you money because you don't have to buy socks. And let's be honest, most accountants and bookkeepers don't want to wear branded merch. I do it because I have no morals or standards. I don't care what I wear. But honestly, we can be sent, like in our office in Canterbury, we can send certain vendors' hoodies, and no one will wear them. People don't want to wear them. I make the point you can wear them to the gym, you can wear them when you're decorating the house, or just Saturday afternoon lazy wear. But people don't like wearing branded merch. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's really interesting actually. I've got no problem wearing. I'm repping FreeAgent today, but I've got no real problem wearing branded merch. I think I like to call out the Engager.app do these little, and maybe other people do as well, but they're like the little trees, and you like grow your business as you're kind of growing a little bonsai tree kind of thing. And I quite like it when a vendor does something a little bit different, especially if it's slightly environmental. And I mean, the amount of plastic bottles still handed out at trade shows just kills me.
I think it's getting better. I mean, more people are doing glass ones and sustainable ones or recycled ones. That's good. I don't know who LinkedIn user is who's private, but so keen John Toon. Keen for what?
There you go.
I don't know. And John's back in the chat again. Food in Japan is all down to attention to detail. Have you ever seen anyone make an omelette in Japan? Totally mesmerizing. I have seen videos of it. I've never seen it made in real life because I haven't been to Japan yet. It's one of my places I need to go.
Oh, I'd recommend it, Dale. I think I try and use chopsticks where possible, but I think they a lot of the time they make omelets with chopstick. I can't profess to have that level of expertise with the chopsticks, but the kind of teppanyaki where you stand, the chef's right there with a hot plate in front of you and stuff is a fantastic experience. But you can probably get that outside of Japan. You don't have to go there just for that experience.
Well, no, you say that. I can't remember what it's called. I want to say it's like omakase or something like that. Hold on, I'm gonna Google it while I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. Is that the right thing? Like. I can't remember what it means, but essentially it means that the chef who is trained in omakase, I think it's no, is it? It means I leave the details up to you, right? To be considered an omakase chef, I probably pronounce that horribly. You have to do something like 10 years worth of training.
Wow.
Like to have that title. And the reason, so you can go to a teppanyaki, that's a regular place, and you can eat it how you want. But like the idea of omakase is you go to that chef, and it's like he's the master, and you don't add anything to what he's done. You don't dip it in sauce. You don't put wasabi on it. It's like he's made it, and you eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I quite like that. I quite like the fact that if you're that skilled and you've got that level of expertise, what do I know about adding ketchup on top of this thing? I will take your word for it. And yeah, I like that.
Oh, LinkedIn user who's blank. It's Tony. I assume that's Tony Stevenson, not just some random tiger. Right?
Yeah, I'd love it to be a random tiger. If we have cereal mascots in the chat, Dale, you are doing fantastically well.
Use FreeAgent. They're great.
Yeah.
I would say Kellogg's might sue me, but no one's really watching this, so Kellogg's not going to sue me. Also, I don't have that much money, so...
They'll sue you for your pizza socks, and then you'll be in
Kellogg's.
Yeah.
Come at me. Like, yeah. All right. I need to ask you a serious question because we've asked lots of personal and funny questions. Can I ask you a mean question?
Of course, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to lean in for this one. Hold on. Back in the day, FreeAgent had a stigma, and I'm gonna ask this question in a horrible way. Why was it so bad?
Why was FreeAgent so bad?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd argue it was never bad, but
I mean, you're somewhat biased.
Of course, massively biased. I'm not going to. Yeah, I think the story of FreeAgent is very interesting. I would say one reason why it was bad, or not bad, but not maybe up to the scratch of our competition or traditional kinds of a competition, is because we were meant for a niche market. I think some of the well-known competition in the space is was trying to be a solution for every type of business, all in one, and aimed at accountants, I think. And the two main differences with FreeAgent was it wasn't built for accountants. It was built for the business owner, and it was built for a specific type of business owner, namely contractors and freelancers. And I think we did a bloody good job at that vertical. But then when you try and extrapolate a vertical into a horizontal, and you're like, okay, now I trade in goods, or I'm a CIS contractor, back in the day kind of thing, FreeAgent doesn't meet those needs. And I think that's probably a fair and non-biased answer.
Correction, didn't
meet those needs.
Because I have to profess, I've got to eat some humble pie. I asked that question, very loaded, very mean to you. Thank you for handling it. Especially with people in my role, right? It's easy to poo-poo a software, but the pace of change is so quick. So I made my assumptions based on FreeAgent when I saw it 6 years ago. That's a long time in FinTech or in development in general. If you look at it now, and FreeAgent aren't paying me to say this, it's a pretty sweet product. Like, it suits the need. Only have one concern with FreeAgent. Do you want to hear what it is?
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
This could lose me any future sponsorship deals. I believe that NatWest are subsidizing the cost of FreeAgent for some Machiavellian purposes. They'll use all that insane data to resell and upsell products. Because that's what I would do. If I was the owner of NatWest, I would get everyone on this software and say, look, MTD, it is coming in. You're going to need software. But let me have some of your banking data. And then let me see patterns and trends in your spending. Let me benchmark against your vertical. And then go, by the way, you're earning 20% less compared to other contractors. Do you need a loan? That's what I would do.
Interesting. So I'm
evil, so
yeah, no, I absolutely. I'm always a fan of looking at what's behind the cloak in any deal at any point. So there's no way of blaming you for that. I think that the truth is that NatWest view, if you use FreeAgent and other sister products, there's got quite a lot within their umbrella, you are stickier to the bank. And in this kind of climate, in the kind of banking climate, and it's with the kind of neobanks, challenger banks, I know you've had guests on previously that's talked about this in far more detail than I will, then it's really tough for high street banks to keep customers and all the benefits they have with them. And the value of a FreeAgent customer to NatWest is surprisingly high, like way higher. When I kind of heard the average kind of figure, it's way higher. And so it's worth them subsidizing and they own FreeAgent, subsidizing licenses, so it's free to use if you're NatWest, Ulster, Royal Bank of Scotland, Metal kind of user, because the value to them as a business is huge for them to stick around.
And I have to give some shine to FreeAgent. I'm going to be careful how I say this, because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share any of this information that you shared at the roundtable. But the stats and metrics that FreeAgent have in terms of user adoption and utilization of the services is insane. Like when I saw it, and like you guys told me, it's a certain percentage of people who've got their bank feed connected, for example. I was like, that is way better than the industry standard for other softwares. And I was like, that's incredible. Like, because that's one of the simplest things in modern bookkeeping kind of software is having a bank feed. But even to this day, and I'll be honest, like, I still struggle to get some clients to trust a bank feed. It's been 10, 15 years.
Absolutely, Dale. It was the biggest eye opener to me when I first started to move in more and more into the practice world as a PM and thinking about the needs that the bank feed rates or usage of the mobile app or these things that I kind of classed as just things that people do nowadays. It was so low across the market, and I always viewed digitalization problems were far more complex than how do I get my client to log in? How do I get them to enable this bank feed thing? And it took massively shifted my perception way back to, well, these are actually the core problems, and you can get so stuck in a FreeAgent world. I think our bank feed adoption rate across all of our clients is 73%, which is
insanely high.
Double the amount of any of our competition, and it's the benefits are outstanding, but it's still really difficult. We still have 9% there of folk, or ish 27% of folks that are like, they still don't have it, and I'm still like, why is this not 100 every day? Why is this not 100? But it's difficult. It's real world problems, I think, get in the way of some of these folks.
Yep. Thank you for humoring me. I realize I asked you some very mean questions, so handle it like a pro.
I think I ask mean questions to people as well, so I'm happy to be put on the spot. If you give it out, you've got to take it.
In that case, do you have any mean questions you want to ask me? I usually say this to the end of the show, but let's do it. Let's do it now. You want any?
I don't think so. I think my only mean question would have probably been, why don't you use FreeAgent more? But
me personally, because I don't own a business. If I owned a business, I would use it.
Why doesn't your firm use FreeAgent more? Dale, you should. I've just told you all the best things about it.
We're looking at it. You know, Dave's working his magic. Tony's working his magic. Like this happening. You know.
I don't have any difficult questions for you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you for being so kind to me. Jumping back into the chat real quick to confirm, it is Tony the target, hence the private status.
Okay,
that makes sense. And John Toons maybe come up with a marketing idea. Maybe FreeAgent should start giving away cereal as swag, Pop-Tarts and Lucky Charms.
I mean, it would be awesome for some folks. I think, have they not? And I should probably know this as a dad, but I think they've stopped doing a lot of this stuff for kids. Like, I think you don't get like branded mascots and stuff now, and everything's a little bit different. I would worry on the implications of giving away really sweet stuff in case people gave it to their kids and it looked bad.
Yeah, but that's not on FreeAgent. That's on the parents.
Okay.
Because you're giving it to adults. There's no accountant bringing their kid to a FreeAgent expo or something like that.
That's fair. Well then, yeah, let's make it happen. Pop-Tarts.
Then we've got to calculate the ROI. You put some kind of QR code on there so people can scan it and get some. And I would say they could get discounts off FreeAgent, but if you get a NatWest bank account, it's free anyway. So like, how would you even track the ROI on that? We'll ask Kirsty. She can figure it out.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had Lucky Charms. I've seen them. I know exactly what they are. But
You've missed out. You've missed out. Like, just the concept is so ridiculous because American cereals in general are so ridiculous. Cookie Crisp, Lucky Charms, they're just pure sugar. In fact, I'm not a fan of cereals in general. My daughter, I don't really give her cereal. The only cereal she has is porridge. Mm-hmm. Other than that, she will usually have some eggs and some bacon or some eggs and some sausage because cereal is absolute trash as food. Yeah, generally, like, it's the worst.
The interesting thing about that, Dale, is so like I think nurseries are really highly regulated these days, and so like it'll be the same with nurseries across the country, I'm sure. But my daughter's nursery is very much like lunches and dinners are super high quality and all this, but they still have like cornflakes. I'm like, do you realize that that's just not really? It sounds good, corn, right? But it's not. It's not really.
Like the nutritional value of cornflakes is disgustingly low.
Or Rice Krispies is the other common one. At least it's not like Sugar Krispies or their sugar equivalent, but still Rice Krispies is like, we'll take all the nice bits of the rice and we'll take that away and you just get this like white puff.
Yeah, it's like when they say like cereals, they're like vitamin enhanced. I'm like, that's because they've had to put powder on them to put the vitamins back in that they took out. And powder vitamins are never as good as natural occurring vitamins in a food. So,
well, maybe as John says there, we could go for like a Scottish theme. Maybe have Tony Stevenson as the porridge man. You know, like there's a Scots porridge oats man on the front cover. Get that?
Yeah, with the shot put and the
Although Tony's not Scottish, so we'll need to find somebody else. But maybe you can.
I mean, you're a pretty big dude. What, you like 6'1", 6'2"? You could
just 6 foot, maybe just under. But we could do it. That could be a nice fun thing. If people eat porridge, we could make that work. We're just adding work onto Kirsty's plate. I'm conscious this is
no. Let's just be honest. We're adding no work to Kirsty's plate. If she is watching this, or she watches later, or listens, she'll ignore everything we said. Like, she's not even going to entertain any of this foolishness, right? I know I wouldn't.
You never know. There's something I can't probably speak about, but will be coming out before the end of the year. That we're doing a new type of marketing effort.
Come on, tell me.
No, I only heard about it the other day, and it might be wrapped up in NDAs, and I can't deal with it. It's something we're doing before the end of the year that felt like a fever dream when I was hearing about how we were going to market this thing. So maybe we can talk offline, or we'll see it when it kind of comes live. But it's crazy. It's crazy, and I think that's a good thing. But I'm not a marketer, so if other people say it's a good idea, it's a good idea.
I'm not going to push you on this, but I can't believe you're teasing me in this way. Like, very rarely do I talk to someone on the show and go, oh, now I really want to know. Like, I'm always interested, but like you literally I'm tantalized.
I'll tell you afterwards, Dale, just in case.
Okay. And I'll sign an NDA, so I won't tell anyone. It's fine.
Also, I might see that Hulk side of Kirsty if I did anything on stream.
Snitches get stitches. They ain't no snitch. I'm just gonna leave that in the ether for a little bit. I might have that on my tombstone. Dale Rodriguez, I ain't no snitch.
I ain't no snitch. People will think that you died a very interesting way if that was the case. I'd be like, what did he do?
Well, you wouldn't, because you know me. You know I'm the most ungangster person on the planet. Like, I can't even say it in a gangster way. I mean...
Well, you do have a gangster-sounding podcast, which is very meta. It's very cool. I think it's pretty gangster.
What, the name of the podcast?
Yeah, I think it's pretty gangster.
Do you want to give it a go? Do you want to try and say it?
Flabonga Monthro Cube. Monthrosa Cube. No, not great at it.
No, you did it. You did it. There's one I did with Laura Manton a little while back, and she ballsed it up. It didn't. And also, if you've seen it before, like, I can't always say it. I have to genuinely concentrate on what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like a serious question or a daft question next?
I'm always up for the daft, Dale. If you're happy with that.
If there is one fictional character from a TV show, book, or movie that you could just punch square in the face, who would it be and why?
I thought that was going to go like really nice, and then it just flipped on.
There is a recurring theme. Why do you think it's nice? None of the questions have been nice so far. They've all been somewhat mean and tainted.
If a character that I'd like to punch in the face.
Yeah. No repercussions. You can just do it all out, full strength, cock back the arm, put your shoulder, put your hips into it, like. Who are you sparking out?
Who am I sparking out? Do you know what? I'm a fan of the American Office. I've been watching quite a bit of The Office, not for the first time again. And there's quite a few characters I'd like to punch square in the face in the American Office. Who would I call out specifically? Are you an American Office watcher, Dale?
I've never watched it. I've only watched the UK version.
Well, the UK version, equally great. Very, very different, but equally great. I guess, but yeah, there's quite a few characters that are a little bit too slapstick, and I'm a big fan of. I'm a big comedy guy, but when it gets too slapstick, when it kind of goes into the Mr. Bean side of things, maybe someone like a Mr. Bean, then it's not for me. So I'll go with Mr. Bean. Okay,
I want to dig deeper on this. What specifically is it about the Mr. Bean character that makes you want to just uppercut this mofo?
I don't know. I think it's when it goes into too slapstick, and I'm getting really niche here, but like the British Office is extremely, I guess, dry and awkward humor. I'm on board with that stuff. But when it goes into just silly physical comedy, probably not for me. Doesn't keep my attention span. I think it's a little bit too silly. So for the likes of Monty Python, some of it's fantastic, and some of it I'm not on board with.
So basically, the criteria is a threshold of silliness for you in your comedy.
Yeah, slapstick silliness, I guess. I'm always a fan of silly, but maybe not extreme silly.
And sorry, did you name one specific character from the US Office, or did you just say just in general?
I didn't. I moved to Mr. Bean at the end there. I felt that was kind of, yeah.
All right, man. Thank you for humoring me. That was a ridiculous question to ask.
No worries.
Okay, I have a question for you. So you again, you mentioned this. You were a business owner and not an accountant by trade. One of the last people to be hired by FreeAgent who haven't got a SEMA, ACC, or whatever. How do you view the industry as a non-accountant?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. So I did start accountancy qualifications, and then very, very quickly realized, which I think is quite meta in the modern world, that I was going to my AATs, and it was very just old school from the way that I was learning on the job using cloud tech. And I was kind of starting to do my T accounts and things like that. And I'm like, every day working in the support team for a couple of years, I am going into like ledgers on screen. I can see a TB, I can see a show transaction, general ledger kind of stuff. But then I'm learning about how to draw up actual books with T accounts. And like, this doesn't translate into the modern world. And so I'm not an accountant. I didn't finish my kind of qualifications there. I've learned far more on the job than I have done to go through a kind of the AAT. Yep. But the way I see things is really interesting, because I think the accounting space, or accountants and bookkeepers, are extremely polarizing that I didn't expect. I think on one hand, you have people that are very, very set in their ways. And that was probably the stereotype that I've had for a lot of my life. They're kind of maybe not people, really into their numbers and the way that they do things, and reluctant to change. But I think what I'm seeing more of, and it's not just in a FreeAgent space because it is cloud accounting, but definitely more of kind of attending events and stuff, is this rise of like tech adopters, not just people that are like, oh, I'll change and that's fine and I'll move from software X to software Y, but actually being like, tech is the future. I'm an accountant and tech is the future. And I think that is fascinating. And there's more and more people coming out of, I would say, coming out of the woodwork. I don't mean it like really in a bad way, but like there is this rise of people that are like, it's not just, you don't have to be neo-banking that's leading this wave. There's actually accountants who want to lead a wave of the future in tech, and products that are supporting them. And I think that's really interesting, because there's definitely still people on both sides.
That's a really great answer. You give really good answers, by the way. Thank you. Oh, you do. You do. It's almost like you've practiced it all. All right, another silly question. If you can't pick FreeAgent, what's your favorite fintech software?
Oh, that is a really good question. I should have thought about that. That's a fantastic question. What's my favorite fintech software? Do you know what? I'm going to call out another Edinburgh-based company, and I really like what the likes of Skyscanner do, and I'm sure there's other equivalents where you're the accessibility of going, I want to go to a place. Or I want to go on holiday. I've got dates, or I've got a location, and you might not have all the pieces of your puzzle yet. And you're like, I want to know the best way of getting there, the cheapest way of getting there. And I want to have X, Y, and Z on my trip, a car or whatever. Show me my options. I think that the way that kind of open, I'm not sure, it's not open banking, it's not open finance, open whatever kind of APIs has allowed that to become a thing. It's fantastic. And I like Skyscanner. It's not just because they're Edinburgh, and their offices were actually above the gym I used to PT, and they've got a big zebra in the boardroom. It's really cool. But yeah, that kind of opening up the world and disrupting the industry, I think is a really cool piece of kit.
Cool. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I realize I've asked you a lot of questions, and you've humored me, and you've answered like a pro, like a boss, a raise for Stu. Do you have any questions for me, nice or otherwise?
Yeah, I guess so. If we touch back onto, used to be a PT, and I was in the industry for a few years. You're quite into your fitness and stuff, Dale. How are you finding the balance between work, family man, and the kind of keeping fit, going to the gym kind of stuff? Do you feel, are you comfortable with the balance, or what does that ideal split look like?
Not at all. I have not been to the gym properly in a while. Like, I used to go like 3 or 4 times a week, maybe like once a week. I do have a weight rack in my bedroom, so I can't do that, but I'm not doing it properly. It's tough being a dad. That takes up a lot of time, and sometimes I'm not physically tired. I'm just mentally tired.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, motivation's not quite there. So I am finding it quite tough to actually maintain strength / physique / my routine. But for me, it's like quite a cathartic thing. I know a lot of people say this, but like I know moving my body, specifically lifting weights, either measuring what I've done, whether that's reps or volume or heaviness, makes me feel better. So
that's great. I would agree. There are definitely people where it doesn't. I think I'll use my wife as an example, and she's not an outlier by any means. That keeping fit is a chore. And it can be a chore to more people than just that. But even when you've done that run, or you like committed and you've got yourself over the line, and you've dragged yourself out of bed or whatever, and you've done a run, and you're like, I've done it for today, and I've got my reps in or your times in, they still are like, I hated doing it. I hated the thought of doing it. I don't get like an after experience of like, now I feel better. They're like, oh, I just hate that I'm tired now. And they never get that kind of nice loop that forces them back in. And I think that, I don't know if it's natural, but I definitely have that natural, like after workout, after exercise high. It sounds like you have as well. But I do feel sorry for the people that don't. And they're just like, oh, I've got to start this cycle of hate again.
I think everyone can achieve it. They just need to train the right way. So, for example, I used to think fitness and exercise was running. I don't like running. I can go on a bike, fun times, and I really enjoy lifting weights. And even like rep ranges, like I enjoy doing strength training more than I do bodybuilding. I've done bodybuilding in the past. So I think if people find out what they like and try different types of exercise, whether it's a different movement, whether it's cardio, whether it's weights, whether it's calisthenics, like if they try different types, they might find that one that works for them.
I think you're probably right. I definitely think everyone's got personal preferences, and they might not think they do, but they definitely do. Like I'm definitely, I love running. My knees are pretty blown out these days. I did far too many marathons. That was like the thing I did, and humans aren't meant to run that far.
Well, not all the time, no.
Not all the time. I had clients that did it as well, so I did it with them, and that just made it far too many. But yeah, and so I love running, but then I found swimming extremely boring. I would love to love swimming, but I just felt like after a couple of lengths, I'm like, what now? So yeah, you're right, I think.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to wrap things up. You've been a fantastic guest. Thank you for being here. Before I hit the end stream button, do you have any advice, pearls of wisdom, or just like a one-liner you want to go out on?
Yeah, so 99% of German Shepherds are dogs.